6 months ago, I told you I'd burn Hannah's tapes for you, and you told me not to, because you knew her story needed to be heard, and so does yours.
What's going on, you guys? Lisa here, and it is time to talk about 13 Reasons Why Season 2. You guys have been commenting on my other videos asking when I was going to talk about it. The time has finally come, and I just want to say first, thanks for being patient. I had a lot of stuff over the weekend that 13 Reasons Why came out that I wasn't expecting because that stuff had been planned before the release date of 13 Reasons Why, so that's why it took me a little longer to watch it than I probably would have if I had nothing to do all weekend. So this is actually just going to be my thoughts on the show as a whole, a review. I'm going to try to not give too many spoilers. I'm going to have other videos talking about specifics of the series, so be sure to subscribe. I'm going to try to get those up this week as fast as I can. But like I said, this is about my thoughts on the show as a whole. And you know what? If I learned anything from the show, and if anybody learns anything from the show, be kinder to people, honestly. Like, YouTube is a place where you can hide behind the comments of what you put. So if you don't agree with someone, a lot of times I've seen it. I've been called names. I've been called an idiot and racist remarks and things because I said something that someone didn't agree with and felt the opposite of. Just learn that you can express your opinions about disagreeing with someone in a nice way, in a professional way. Like if I say I don't like this character this much, I didn't understand this, why they did this, and I thought it was stupid. And if you think that the opposite, do it in a nice way. Be like, hey, I see your point, but I disagree, and this is why. Don't call people names. That's my little PSA for now. I know it's never gonna change, unfortunately, and that's a problem, but that's for another time. Let's talk about this show and this season. It's a polarizing one, I will say that. The first season, very controversial. I read the book when I was a little bit younger. I don't know how much younger, obviously, but I really liked the book. I went through some times when I myself had some depression and things, so I related to parts of the book, and I thought, you know, it did a great job. And then the show, obviously, the first season caused a lot of controversy, people saying it glamorized suicide, others saying it didn't, and it caused a conversation. No matter what this show does, whether you agree with how they portray something or not, it has you talking, and I think that's the point of this show. I've seen a lot of people talking about the current season and how they portrayed something that didn't need to happen in the second season finale. And you know what? It may not have had to happen, but the sad reality of this show is that these things really do happen. If you have not watched the Beyond the Reasons on Netflix for season 2, please go watch that as well, and you'll get some more insight into why the producers did what they did with certain things, why they included it. Their psychologists, their consultants, they all talk about these things, and I think it will give you a little more insight, whether you agree with the show or not. That being said, season 2, I'm on the fence of whether I thought this season was necessary or not. The selfish part of me did fall in love with these characters in season 1, and I wanted to see where their story went. But I think the show would have been just as powerful and potent if it had ended with season 1. That being said, Netflix had a hit on their hands. I think the producers saw an opportunity to talk about more issues, so they went ahead with this season 2. There are aspects of season 2 I really like and some that I don't. I think the problem I have with season 2 is it felt like they were like, okay, we got the green light for season 2. Let's shove as many issues as possible into this one season. And the problem with that is they don't spend enough time on any one issue to portray it, I think, in a complete way. There are a couple that do get around to being rounded out, but there's some characters that have their own storylines that are then dropped and you never see them again until like the finale when they come hug someone. So I think there's a missed opportunity. I think it was too much crammed into one season. Too many different characters. Season 1 was set up nicely where it was like a tape for every person, and what they were doing in the present time kind of all lent itself to stopping Clay from, doing the tapes. It wasn't as many side stories. This season, every character has an episode when it comes to their trial for the most part, but they're also each doing their own things individually in the present time. That gets a little confusing. It's too much crammed into every episode. And like I said, some characters will have their bit of storyline and then you don't see them again for 4 episodes. So by the time their storyline comes back around, you forgot what happened with them because 50 other people had a storyline. And I think that's kind of my main issue with this second season. Now when it comes to show writing-wise and performance-wise, writing-wise, it's an for me. I think some of the writing not realistic, other times good dialogue. I don't know. It's not the best written show, but I think the show serves its purpose. And I think everybody upped their performances in this season. Some were a little over the top than others, but a lot of people did such great jobs to show various sides of their characters we did not see in season 1. I think some of my favorite performances, if I had to pick, Justin Prentiss, who plays Brice, Dylan Minnette, who plays Clay, and honestly Ross Butler and Miles Heiser, Alicia Bowe. I think all of those people did such fantastic jobs this season. Kate Walsh also as well. But these kids, they were so good. I shouldn't call them kids because I think they're all in their 20s anyways. But I really loved Alex's journey. Jessica had a very powerful storyline. I loved getting to know more about Zach. Zach was honestly one of my favorite characters in season 1. You could tell he was a sweet kid who just didn't know what to do. Now here's where we're gonna get probably my most polarizing reaction from you guys. While I think Dylan Minnette is a great actor and he does such a good job with Clay, I think he is the only reason that Clay at times is bearable. Like, if any other actor had portrayed Clay, he would have been not likable at all to me, because honestly, this character, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't think he's that likable. I get that he is going through an intense recovery and he is angry, and that is something people feel when they lose someone in their lives, and that is an important part to portray. I just think what he does is he doesn't go about what he does the right way. He is driven to a point of being a bad person in a sense. Not that he is a bad person, but doing bad things, I should say. And that really comes to a head in season 2. He even did it in season 1 when he stoops to the level of the other bullies and sends that picture around of Tyler. What that does is just adds to the problem. You think it's helping a problem, but it's not, because you're becoming just like them, unfortunately. It's a cycle that needs to end, but sadly will never end. But yeah, Clay, and beyond the reasons, Dylan says a lot that Clay acts on his emotions and that gets him in trouble. It turns him selfish, and that is so true in this season. You can see that he has blinders on. The only thing he sees is justice for Hannah, and he wants to get that no matter the cost. And especially no matter the cost to the other people. And I think his whole, finally at the end of the series, he learns to finally let people in, to talk about things with people, and I think that helps him and gives him a big turning point in the finale. But to get there, it's not an easy journey. He's not an easy character to want to root for, in a sense. The other performances, I mean, like I said, the other performances are great, but one that I really have to give a shout out is to Justin Prentiss as Brice. Brice is the worst person on the show, obviously, but in order to portray this guy with such, like, you want to hate him, but you can also at times feel for him in a way, but not to the extent where you're like, okay, that this is his redeeming moment. He doesn't have one of those, but there is a sense of a point where he had this glimmer of, like, I could be a good guy, and you see those little moments. But the fact that this Justin Prentiss can portray Brice in such a creepy and menacing but yet manipulative way, I guess, he is such a good actor for being able to do that realistically. And then, if you know anything about him, everybody on set says he's actually the nicest guy in the world. So that just makes it even more of a great performance to me. Something else I think they could have done without this season is the whole Clay talking to Hannah thing. Clay talking to Hannah would have been fine, but I think putting her in the show as kind of this figment of his imagination or ghost, whatever you want to call it, because even the showrunner says he's leaving it open-ended to what you want to think how he's seeing Hannah. It could have been done with just Clay just talking to himself or whatever. I think Hannah was in the show enough with the flashbacks we see from the other characters' perspectives of her that we didn't need her in the whole ghostish imagination scenario. I think it kind of took away from everything and was kind of distracting. And yeah, and then with the ending, I think a lot of people have a problem with the finale episode. And I think I kind of agree. I get that the ending deals with two other very controversial yet sadly relevant topics that could have been dealt with in a different way, I think. There are many times throughout the finale that I was like, you could stop the episode right here. Everybody would be satisfied. It would be a nice, happy ending for everybody. But the sad reality is not everybody has a happy ending. You know, life continues to go on. But that, if they had stopped the episode at any of like 4 or 5 times throughout the finale, it would have not necessarily been everybody getting their happy ending, but a sense of hope, a sense that people can recover. But they continued to push it a little too far, and there is a seriously graphic scene in the finale. I think people have told me it's like 38 minutes in. I didn't really count the time code. It is extremely graphic. Was that necessary? To an extent, yes and no. I think the scene itself is a very relevant thing, but did we actually need to see that graphic of it being played out? I think the answer is no. Either way, people are talking about it. People, I think Devin Druitt said he Googled it, and that stuff that happens in that scene unfortunately happens so much in schools, and I think it is important to talk about male sexual assault and how that actually does happen. You just don't, I think, hear about it as much as you do female sexual assault, sadly. But it's a topic that should be addressed, and then the whole ending scene is something that is super relevant, and whether you like that happened or not, whether you think you should empathize with that character or not, or feel sorry for him, the main point of the show is picking up on warning signs. Every character that does something has kind of this warning signs that people have shoved off or started to acknowledge but then didn't follow up on, and that's what drove these people to do what they do. So if anything, I hope that this show explains to you what to look for. You may never hear about these things happening in your school, but that's because people hide the stuff that happens. They don't want to talk about what's happened to them. They're not going to blast it all over the school, so you're never going to hear about it. But sadly, this kind of stuff does happen. Do a Google search on it. Watch some documentaries, because to be honest, when it comes to like the trial and Hannah's case and specifically and Jessica's, I've watched documentaries about it. There's some on Netflix. There's one called, I think, Something and Daisy. I don't remember the exact name, but that case is very much like what happened with Hannah and Jessica, and the outcome is kind of similar. So if you're thinking about how things are portrayed in the show and you're not happy with it and you think it's unrealistic, do some research, because I think you'll find that there are parts of this that are very realistic and very relevant, and it's frightening to discover that this is actually happening. So yeah, as I guess what I'm trying to say review-wise is that the show as a whole, it's melodramatic. There's episodes that don't have good writing, whatever. There's plot holes. There's characters that disappear, and you're like, where did they go? Where did they come from? Or whatever. I think no matter what, the show will start a conversation, and I think it's conversations that need to be had. There is a line in the final episode that Clay says to Tyler, and I think it's important that, like, it's something that a lot of people feel. It's like, oh, you don't want to carry out some kind of tragedy that's then going to be talked about for 2 weeks and then forgotten. Because that's what we're seeing with the things that are happening today. Everybody sends their thoughts and prayers on Twitter and whatever, and you hear about the incident for a couple weeks, and then you never hear about it again. You never hear about the problem being resolved or any action towards making things better. So hopefully, no matter what, we get a dialogue, we get people agreeing and disagreeing, because even if you hate, there's no such thing as bad publicity. If you hate something and you're talking about it on Twitter and you say, this was portrayed the worst way possible, this isn't how it happens, and you get into a conversation with someone who says that this is, you can talk things out, you can see why, whatever, but no matter what, you're talking about it. You're giving this issue exposure of how it can be made better, and I think that's really what is important about this show, whether you like it or not. I hope this review makes sense. When I go off the cuff on my own thoughts, I kind of get all over the place, and sometimes I don't say what I want to say, and I say things that are stupid probably, but that's kind of my main feelings on this show as a whole, my review. If I had to give the show a grade, I don't know, a C+, B-, because I think the first season was done better. I think the execution of the second season as a TV show was not quite done as well. Too much crammed into one thing. Too many trying to resolve 5,000 issues or trying to bring up the topic of 5,000 issues was too much. I think the show could have focused on maybe like 2 or 3 issues instead of like 10. And not that I think there should be a third season, because I kind of don't. I think that it should just end here, be a cliffhanger, be a topic starter. But if there had been a third season, or if there is a third season, they could have just continued with some of the issues they didn't touch on as much in season 2. Instead of saying, here's so-and-so with this problem, but not really show you exactly the depth of it and the importance that the attention it should have. Okay, I'm done now. I'm gonna go work on my other videos. I hope you understand this review. Hopefully it opens dialogue in the comments. Be nice though in the comments when you argue with someone, okay? I'm gonna go, work on the other videos. Let me know your thoughts about season 2 of 13 Reasons Why. Do you think it was necessary? Was it not necessary? What storyline or issue do you think they got right, and what did they get wrong? And should there be a third season or not? Thanks so much for hanging out with me, you guys. You can check out more of my videos right over here. Be sure to subscribe because I will have like a talking about the ending and her whole season recap coming very, very soon on my channel. I'm actually going to go work on those right now. So I got to go. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.